You can have the best setup in the world, but if you don't have this figured out, it doesn't even matter. Today on Stonkcast, we are kicking off a brand new 5-part mini-series on trading psychology. What goes on between the ears. You can have the best setup, but if you don't have the mental game figured out, you're already losing. We will be breaking down the key points of the trading classic, The Disciplined Trader, written by Mark Douglas. If you haven't already, check out our last mini-series we did, The Intelligent Investor, written by Benjamin Graham. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, let's get into it. Welcome back to Stonkcast, the market show for the average Joe. Whether you're a diamond-handed degenerate looking for the next 500% play or a more conservative swing trader or investor, we've got you covered. We tackle the latest market news, give our 2 cents, and maybe, just maybe, help you make some money along the way. I'm your host as always, Brandon Shar. Welcome back to the show, and we are kicking off a brand new mini-series on trading psychology, a book that I've read a couple times now and has really changed the way that I've looked at the mental side of trading. We are going to be tackling The Disciplined Trader, written by Mark Douglas, and he also put out another classic which is called Trading in the Zone, which I would say is probably a bit more popular than The Disciplined Trader. But this book is very, very important, and I highly recommend getting your hands on a copy of this, whether it be audio version or a physical copy. I have both, but if you are serious about trading, this is a book that you definitely want to have. So let's jump right into it. We're going to kick it off with why most traders self-sabotage. The market has no power over you, your beliefs do. So these are a few of the different ways that traders self-sabotage. This is something that if you have been in the market for any amount of time, I am sure that you have experienced. I definitely have. The first one here, exiting early even when your setup is still valid. There can be a lot of reasons why you do this. The main one, I would say, at least in my experience, is due to fear. You want to be right. You want to be right. You don't want to be wrong. You don't want to lose money. It's counterintuitive, right? And so a lot of times you can have a setup that's valid, isn't anywhere near close to your stop loss, and you decide to exit because you just want to take whatever the market's giving you in that moment. You just want to take a little bit of profit, and then you see it continue to ride up and eventually hit your take profit, and then you kick yourself and you go, why did I do that? Another one is doubling down out of frustration. So this is something, unfortunately, I have done a few different times for sure. And basically, you're just, for lack of a better term, you're just pissed off that the market is not doing what you expected it to do. And you go on what you would call tilt and you double down. You buy more of that position, even though you're in the red. You're just mad. And you, double down out of frustration. Another one is refusing to re-enter after a stopped out trade. So you can have a great setup. It hits your stop loss. But then maybe later on in the day, you come back and you see that same exact setup coming back, but you refuse to re-enter, probably because you're afraid to lose. There's a fear there. There's an emotion that's driving you. You're not looking at it objectively. You're not thinking about, hey, how often does this trade actually play out? Instead, you're thinking from an emotional standpoint of fear. And then a last one here is chasing price after you missed your plan. Also known as FOMO, fear of missing out, right? And this is something I'm guilty of as well in the past. And even recently it's happened, unfortunately. So, basically being in a position where you see an awesome setup and then, maybe it runs and it's up, 50 cents, $1 from your planned entry. And you're like, crap, I missed it. Let me get in before this thing really rockets. And you start chasing the price. At that point, your setup is no longer valid. You're not getting the ideal entry point for your trading plan, and instead you're chasing out of a fear of missing out. This was something that I experienced heavily in 2021 with GameStop and AMC. Put out a whole video on how that went last week. Make sure to check that out. That was a doozy. But, basically these are the different ways in which, traders can really sabotage themselves. And it's so common. And the traders I talk to, it's a very, very common experience. So these aren't mistakes. They are emotional decisions, and they come from beliefs that you might not even realize you have. So why it happens? So most of us were taught from a young age to avoid risk, avoid pain, and seek certainty, right? If you just think about the society that we are in, think about grade school. You get up, you go to school, you have a routine each day. If you study hard, you do really well on your test, you'll get a good score, you'll get into a good school, right? There's a plan, there's a format there that you can easily follow and understand. If I do this, this will happen. This is a certainty if I do this. That's really how our society is structured. Think about, you could even think of an example of where, hey, if I steal this thing, I'm going to jail. There are numerous examples that you could think of in society where, if this happens, then this will happen. That's not how the market operates, though. I mean, think about going to work. It's not like the road, the path that you take to work every day. It's not like it changes every day. Like, imagine how frustrating that would be if every day you woke up and you had to figure out a new way to get to work. No, it's the same thing every single day. But the market operates more so in the other fashion. It operates in the sense of things are different every single day. You have to be diligent and you have to be nimble in the market, right? So basically, from a young age, we have been taught to seek certainty, to avoid pain. I mean, that's just natural, and avoid risk. But trading demands the opposite, the exact opposite. The market demands calculated risk, emotional pain, and total uncertainty. These are guaranteed. If you are in the market, it's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. And this is just an excellent quote that is in The Disciplined Trader from Mark Douglas. One thing you will learn as a trader is that the mental resources you use to get what you want in your everyday life will not work in the trading environment. The power and control that are necessary to manipulate the markets, make them do what you want them to do, are beyond all but a handful of individuals, and the external constraints that exist in society to control your behavior don't exist in the market environment. The markets have absolutely no power or control over you, no expectation of your behavior, and no regard for your welfare. I mean, that is a powerful quote and so true. I mean, again, coming back to the society thing, there are constraints that exist in society, as Mark Douglas says, that control our behavior. But in the market doesn't care. The market has no regard for your P&L target, no regard for what your long-term goals are. It is just a collection of millions and millions of people every single day buying and selling based off of their own individual goals and aspirations and what they're perceiving in the market, which isn't the same as what you're perceiving. It is a very, very fluid environment, and it's an excellent quote. I love this one. So the market is neutral, but your beliefs, they color everything. Your brain resists, right? It says, don't lose again. Play it safe. You need to win. And that's how we sabotage good setups. We're avoiding emotional pain. We're not making rational decisions. And as I was saying earlier, this is something that I most definitely have struggled with Just this past week, I was looking at Tesla. I was in Tesla calls. I was down on the day, I think 3 or 4%. I had some trades in the morning that did not go my way, and I was technically on tilt. I was frustrated. And the minute that those Tesla calls had a bit of a pullback when I was already up on them, I decided to add more to the position because I was just focused on trying to get my P&L back from the morning, right? And those call options ended up going against me, and I was so frustrated that I waited longer than I should have to get out of it. And it just goes back to the point that Mark Douglas makes here in his book. They have no regard. The market has no regard for your welfare. And it's just such an important concept that we really need to understand. We really need to grasp it. And if we can, it'll help our trading. So we need to reframe, right? So you are not fighting the market. A lot of people look at the market as this evil thing that's just out to take your money. Again, the market could care less about you. It just is what it is. The market is just a collection of people buying and selling. And it's easy to get caught up in some of the various conspiracies and, the hedge funds are trying to take our money, and that's why we need to hold on, right? That's been like the classic AMC GameStop theory, conspiracy. We just need to hold. And it's creating this us versus them mentality. But at the end of the day, if we're being honest and realistic, the market just is what it is. And you have to accept that. You're not fighting the market. You're really fighting yourself. You are reconciling your internal conflicts. If you have a lot of internal conflicts going on, that's going to impact your trading. You can have an amazing setup, but if you don't get things right between the ears, so to speak, you're going to have issues. The goal isn't perfection. It's consistency. This is a very, very important point here. The goal isn't perfection. It's consistency. Think about getting an edge in the market. All the professional traders out there have an edge. They have a strategy, and they rinse, repeat. That's how they handle their trading plans. They are not concerned about perfection. In fact, they know that perfection is impossible. It's not going to happen. Their main priority is consistency, and that's what our priority needs to be if we plan on trading in the market and trying to be here for the long haul and actually make some money. It's about consistency. There are traders out there who have win rates of less than 40%. You can have a win rate of 25, 30%. I know there are many successful, traders with win rates in that range. But because of the fact that their winners outweighed their losses by so much, they end up net positive, right? To have a setup that only wins 25, 30% of the time, you have to understand trading psychology. You have to have a firm grip on the mental side of this game, because if you don't, one of the things that can happen is that you will be overly focused on perfection, and with a win rate like that, you're going to be noticing the glaring imperfection of your strategy. So consistency, rinse, repeat, very important. And that starts with examining your beliefs. You have to really dig into, what do you believe about the market? What do you believe about the other person on the side of that trade, right? The person you're selling to, if you're buying, or, if you're selling to somebody, the other person buying, you have to think about your mentality as it relates to the overall market. Here's another great quote from Mark Douglas. From a psychological perspective, this means that each trade has the possibility of fulfilling your wildest dreams of financial independence, and simultaneously presents you with the risk of losing everything you own. The constantly changing price movement makes it extremely easy for you to ignore the risk and tempt yourself into believing you don't have to follow your own rules this time. So, this is just to kind of give this some context. He's referring to buying futures contracts. If you just buy one contract, for example, this is the scenario you can find yourself in. And the same thing applies really to, stocks, options, whatever you're doing, however you're involved in the market, the reality remains the same. It's this very twisted, unfortunate reality that every time you're in a trade, yes, technically speaking, the possibility of fulfilling your wildest dreams of financial independence are on the table every single time. And that's part of the reason why people hold on to, losers too long. And, it's really backwards, right? Really, a lot of traders, in reality, myself included, guilty of this, we hold on to losers too long and we cut our winners too short. When really it should be the opposite. We should be cutting our losers very, very quickly and being hopeful when we have a trade going in our direction, letting it run its course, according to our strategy, whatever that looks like. So, this is a very, very, I found a very interesting quote from Mark Douglas, just about the simple fact that, you always have this dilemma on the table when you're in a trade, fulfilling your wildest dreams of financial independence, but at the same time, the risk of losing everything you own. Price is constantly moving, and, it makes it very, very, very tempting to say, hey, you know what? This one time, I'm just not going to follow my rules. This one time, I'm just going to, let this trade run, even though my stop loss technically was hit. And then the thing that happens is, if that does end up working in your favor, you just reinforce negative habits, because the next time what you tell yourself is, well, hey, last time it worked out so well, so why don't I just ignore my rules just this one time again and see what happens? So very, very interesting book, The Disciplined Trader, again, written by Mark Douglas. Would highly encourage you to get a copy of this. As far as next week's episode, we will be tackling you don't control the market, and that's okay. That'll be the topic for next week. Again, this is a 5-part mini series, and really looking forward to getting into this. It's such an important topic that a lot of traders, I feel like, ignore. A lot of traders are, I even know some people who would claim that, it's just, it's not that important. And it's just so not true. It's so not true. It's very important, and it impacts really everything, and impacts your decision making. So that's what I got for you to kick off this new mini series. Make sure to leave a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. What kind of struggles have you had as far as trading psychology, the mental side of things, how it's impacted you in your trading journey? As a reminder, I will be back for a market prep for the week ahead, coming out shortly. That'll be dropping on Sunday evening. So I thank you very, very much for watching. Thanks for subscribing if you have subscribed. And if not, hey, leave a comment, drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and we will be back later on. And as always, folks, remember, plan the trade and trade the plan.